June. Sir June, you are muted, sir. Sir June, you are muted.
Hello, everyone. It's 8 o'clock in the evening in the Philippine Standard Time. So, good evening, fellow Filipinos. Good morning and good afternoon to the other participants who are with us for tonight's session from the other parts of the world. Welcome to the IGP's 212 free international webinar. Thank you so much for joining with us in this wonderful session. Once again, I am your host. I am Mr. Rian Jun P. calling from Auckland, Philippines, and I will be in charge for tonight's activity. I am a senior high school mathematics teacher of Baton Academy and National School in the Department of Education, Division of Aklan, Philippines. It is a great honor and privilege to be in the IGP as one of its consistent webinar hosts and, of course, to be one of the 1,000 active members around the globe. It is my delight to welcome you all in this institution of global professionals free international webinar. I hope everyone will stay active to participate in our activities later on, especially in our IGP quiz, for you to have a chance to win a quiz on a quiz e-certificate. And before we continue, you may like and comment while our webinar is going on. And please tag, share, and mention your friends in the comment box so that we can be able to share with them the knowledge that our speakers will impart to us tonight. In this virtual world, I believe that we can watch together and we can learn together. The events and activities that IGP provides to us, dear participants, are proofs that pandemic does not just bring challenges and difficulties in life, but also it offers a lot of opportunities to grow professionally. For the new members, let me give some background about IGP. IGP stands for Institute of Global Professionals, and it is an ISO certified education institute and has certified trainings and webinars that is reflected in the e-certificate that each participant will receive after attending every session. It is recognized internationally and globally accredited to more than 100 countries. IGP is a leading online skill development institute with thousands of learners worldwide. IGP serves the world communities by providing holistic social work in education to help building a world with a strong foundation of education and life skills. IGP gives opportunities accessible for every knowledge seeker to gain mastery of skills, to develop personality, to become more goal oriented, to strengthen confidence in facing any circumstances in life, and to enhance skills by inviting great speakers and professionals from other parts of the world. The organization believes that skills development is not only gained through a formal education. So, IGP offers free virtual training and consultations to young professionals who are willing to learn, improve, and embrace changes. IGP organizes webinars, trainings, both offline and online courses with the best and highly trained speakers and coaches from all corners of the world to create a best learning platform for all of us, dear participants. So before we continue again, I am begging to our dear participants to please share, tag, comment, and mention your friends in the comment box. It is also served as your support to our organization. Moreover, participants who will be joining this free international webinar will receive an e-certificate that you can use in the future. Today, we are presenting the 212th free international webinar series entitled Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning, Part 4. We will be enlightened by our speakers coming from Indonesia, who will be introduced later on as they deliver their speeches and lectures. Meanwhile, you can take down your questions and queries about their lectures, and later on, we will have our question and answer part where you can address it to our speakers. And now it's time to start our program. Our first speaker for tonight is a senior lecturer and the head of English language education in the Department of the Islamic University. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me present to you Dr. Siti Asmia M. Tesol.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening here in the Philippines. Good afternoon there in your country. Okay. Dr. Siti, you can now present your PowerPoint presentation, I think.
Fine, fine.
Uh,
Thank you, Pak Jun. Hello, world. Good evening, uh, good morning, and good afternoon in different parts of the world. Yeah, uh, it's an honor to be here in the Institute of Global Professional. And for tonight, I would like to share a bit of my experience related to authentic assessment. So let me share my screen first. So this is my screen. Is it already on the screen, Pak Jun?
yes, ma'am. It's already visible.
Fine.
Good
So
luck.
I call Pak Jun. So Pak is the way we address here in Indonesia. It's just like Mister. Yeah. Fine. So for tonight, I will share my experience related to authentic assessment through service learning. And this is the organization of my presentation. So first thing first, I will reflect on my assessment practices, and then we will go to a search for working definition related to assessment, and then go to authenticating assessment. And then I will share my experience of using service learning for authentic assessment and also some possible application of the use of service learning as a form of authentic assessment for other contexts. So I will start off by sharing some of my assessment practices. Uh, Here in the State Islamic University of Sunan Ampel, based in Surabaya, Indonesia. Currently, I'm the head of the English Language Education Department, and related to some of the assessment practices, I'm taking part in the development of test items for the national enrollment, particularly for state Islamic universities and also for excellent state Islamic secondary school nationally. I also take part in the development of test items for the national teacher recruitment. So this teacher will be hired by the government. I'm also taking part in the review process of test items for National Science Olympics conducted by the Ministry of Religious Affairs of Indonesia. So those are some of assessment practices that I have been involved in addition to the assessment practices for my classroom, because assessment is an inseparable part of our teaching and learning practices. I myself not an expert in the area of assessment, but as assessment is part of my day-to-day practice in teaching and learning. So for tonight, I will share what I've been doing as far as assessment, as far as authentic assessment is concerned in my teaching and learning practice. Well, I will start off by looking at my assessment practices in the past. Yeah. Again, I would like to reflect on my experience. I myself is a kind of inductive learner. So I learn through experiencing. I learn through asking questions. So for the whole of my assessment, I will take you to the reflection that I have with my assessment practices. to start off, I would like to reflect on my assessment practices in the past, particularly in writing classes. So in the past, I usually have questions as stimulus for essay writing. So I teach writing from the writing one up to writing four, starting from paragraph writing up to argumentative writing. And in the past, usually I have question and stimulus for essay writing. So I post some question and I ask students to respond to that question in forms of writing. Sometimes I also provide students with data or graphs as stimulus for essay writing. And in addition to that, I also adopt some question items in standardized tests, such as from TOEFL tests or from IELTS tests, with an expectation that by the end of the course, students will have the ability similar to the standard TOEFL that we have in our university. So these are some of the assessment practices that I have in the past in my writing classes. And from these practices, then I come up with my evaluation on the practice. So with roughly about more than 12 years experience in the teaching of writing and also in assessing student writing and reflecting on the practices that I have and I have mentioned earlier, I feel that students find difficulty in exploring ideas. So when they are given or they are assigned with questions, with graphs, in front of them and I asked them to write, students reflect that they find difficulty to explore ideas. So what then I find is that it seems that there is no out of the box ideas coming from students writing. So I come to the conclusion that my evaluation practice with these types of three practices I have reflected earlier, it's merely a completion of the task. So student do the writing as a completion of the task. It's not about owning the process of writing. It's not about owning the process of learning. So that's my reflection from the writing classes I have and also the assessment that I have used in the past to assess my students' writing. In addition to teaching writing, I also teach English for young learners. And in the past, I can reflect that because the learning objective of English for young learners is to enable students have the knowledge and skills to teach English for students in the primary schools. And in the past, I think that it would be good if students have the idea, if a student can imagine how the class will look like. Hence, in terms of the assessment, I have mock classes for material and media development. So I assign them to a group and then think of possible material that may be interesting for the students. And then in group, they create the materials as well as the media, which then they will use as a peer teaching. So in the English for young learner classes, students will have intern act out as a teacher, or sometimes when their peer is acting as teacher, that they will be acting as students. So this is what I call as mock classes. And in this English for young learners class, they develop the material, they develop the media, they do the peer teaching, imagining that they are facing the real students. However, mock classes will never be the same as the real class, though. Then from this practices of assessment in my English for Young Learner classes, I find out that everything seems to be okay. So the student could do well in the development of the materials. They also have the ability to develop the media. They can also teach well in the peer teaching. So everything seems to be okay. The material are good, and then the media are good. The strategies that they implement in the peer teaching are good. But then when it comes to real practice, they find it difficult. Meaning that the mock classes may not fully represent the actual conditions of what they need to face in the real class. So those are my reflection on the assessment practices that I have in the past. Then from those reflection, I have my thought. If that's what happened in my writing classes, in which students find difficulty in exploring ideas, regardless the intensive and extensive reading that they have, and when I read their writing, I find that there is no such out of the box ideas. And with the students' reflection on their difficulty when they come to the real classroom for the English of Young Learner, I have this deep thinking of how can I facilitate students to bring the meaning from the learning and also from the assessment. Therefore, the writing assessment will not be just merely completion of the task. Then the assessment for English for Young Learner will not be it's okay in the class, but it's not that okay outside of the class. So I come to this thinking about the ways to facilitate my students to bring the meaning of their learning, to take the ownership of their learning through the process of teaching and learning, as well as through the process of assessment. And from this thinking, as I have mentioned earlier, that I am a kind of inductive learner. I'm a kind of a learner who is learning through questioning, learning through experiencing, learning through acting out. Then from this thinking, I'm trying to find a working definition of what actually assessment. Therefore, I can find the right direction to the assessment practices that I have for my students. Then I come up with from my reading, I come up with three interrelated uh, terminology. The first one is measurement, the second one is assessment, third one is evaluation. These three sometimes are used interchangeably, but some other experts use them in a different way. But I'm not complicating the idea whether we should differentiate them or we can use them interchangeably. My point is actually how assessment can be authentic. How can students take the meaning, take the ownership of their learning through the assessment processes? And then I learned that measurement is something related to quantifying the learning outcome based on standard. So in a measurement, we will work with scoring, we will work with numbers to quantify the learning outcome that student has achieved. Then what about assessment? How is it related to measurement? When we have those scores, then we are valuing the learning outcome based on the indicator. So if we have set criteria, students need to be able to achieve A, B, C, and then what are the indicators so that we can put the score of, for example, 70 or 80. So in this process of measurement and assessment, actually we do both in an interrelated manner. And once we've got the quantification of the learning outcome, and then we also have looked at the indicators that showing the students' ability, knowledge, and skills, then it's time for us to make judgment. And this process of making judgment is understood as evaluation. So overall, the three actually are interrelated one to the other. That is why at the beginning I mentioned that I'm not in the position of whether we should use these three interchangeably or whether we need to have a clear distinction between among the three terms of measurement, assessment, and evaluation. So I was in the process of thinking of these three, and I was also in the process of thinking how to bring better experience to the students in terms of their learning and in terms of the assessment that I set for them. From this definition, then I have these questions that I kept pondering. After I was reflecting on the assessment practices in my classes, in writing classes, and also in the English for Young Learner classes. What do we assess actually? So I was questioning myself when I set those criteria, when I set those scores, when I set those indicators, when I have a criteria for judging the student, oh, this student can pass the course, or this student need to do more in the course. What actually I was assessing? Then the answer to that question is that I was assessing students' learning outcome, and of course I should use the present form. Yeah, I'm assessing the students' learning outcome. Then I have the next question from that. Where can we find the learning outcomes and the learning objective targeted for the teaching and learning process in the course? And for the learning objectives and the targeted learning outcomes, we can find it in the curriculum. Then the next question that came into my mind that time is that who developed the curriculum then? In the context of Indonesia, we have for the primary and secondary school, it is the government who developed the curriculum. But for the university level, it's each university develop their own curriculum, of course, with the moderation among universities. So with these three questions, what do I assess? I assess students' learning outcome, their achievement. Where can we find the learning outcome that we need to assess? From the curriculum. Then who developed the curriculum? It is the government. In my context, it's my institution, it's my university. And to narrow it down, it's my English language education department. Then what is the basis of the development of such curriculum? We understand that curriculum is developed to prepare the students for the real world that they will compete after their graduation. And for that purpose, then the curriculum is developed based on the needs of the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders here? So the teachers, the students, the government, other institutions, more importantly, the users, in quotation, the users of our student later after they graduate. From all of these process of questioning, asking, and thinking, then I come to a point in which then if the learning outcome was actually formulated, developed from the needs of the stakeholders, why not involving stakeholders in the assessment then? Therefore, the process that we have been working with the student in the classroom, the process with the assessment can really reflect what the stakeholders needs, because it's them who actually understand what they need. It's them who actually can better judge, in quotation, whether our student already meet their expectation. So from this question of why not involving stakeholders in the assessment, I'm very lucky that here at the State Islamic University of UIN Sunan Ampel, we've got a training related to this point of involving stakeholder in the process of teaching and learning, and as well as in the process of assessment. So uh, from what I have been questioning the process of my thinking, then I understand the relationship of the need of the stakeholder, which become the basis of the curriculum, which from the curriculum we understand the learning outcomes, the learning objective of our teaching and learning, which then we assess. In the process of assessment, we involve the stakeholder to better understand if the teaching and learning and the assessment is relevant to the learning outcome as expected by the stakeholder. Then how we can involve the stakeholder? Here in the English Language Education Department of the State Islamic University Sunan Ampel, or we call it UINSA, we have what is so-called service learning. Yeah, self-paced learning is not it's basically not only about assessment. It's also about teaching and learning process. What is self-paced learning? So what service learning is actually the integration of services into learning. And of course, because we also assess the learning, then service learning also incorporate the assessment. So service learning is the integration of services and learning, and assessment as an integral part of the teaching and learning. So why do we use service learning? We understand that experience is the best teacher. By giving the student opportunity to give services, then they will learn, because by giving services, the learning processes in the community. In that sense, then we can have enriched learning, and more importantly, we also can facilitate authentic assessment for our student. And in the service learning, we have straight one-to-one relationship of the learning outcomes, the learning objective, and the needs of the community. So this, in a way, can ensure that what we are processing with the student in the teaching and learning, and through the assessment, we really prepare the students for the competition in the real world, because they are learning also from the community that they will work with later on after they graduate. So here are some benefits of the service learning for the student. So when they go to the community, they apply the theories, they experience. So rather than sitting in the class doing the assessment, rather than having mock classes, they really experience the actual teaching and learning. In the writing, courses, the student come to the community, can be to schools, can be in madrasah. Yeah, madrasah is Islamic school, and they apply their skill and knowledge in that community. Service learning can also develop students to practice critical thinking and problem solving. because the problem that they need to solve through the service that they give to the community are real problem, not the mock one, not the made up one. Yeah. And through service learning, also raise awareness to the organization and community, because we are preparing them to be part of the community. So right from the beginning, when they are working with the community, they can raise their awareness of their obligation as part of the community. Service learning also develop understanding on the community empowerment and provide better chance to contribute to the development of community and social responsibility. Maybe I should give an example of the form of authentic assessment through service learning. So in my writing class, for example, students learn various types of English genre. Take for example a descriptive text. So the learning objective of the course, one of the learning objective of the course is that students need to be able to develop a descriptive text, for example. Then student will find a community or school that they need descriptive text. So one of the example is that one of my student went to a madrasa. So madrasa is Islamic school. This madrasa is developed. Was in the process of developing their websites, and the madrasa needs a description about the school. So my student come to the madrasa, talked with the teacher, talked with the headmaster, collect information, and from there, my student developed a descriptive text based on the need of this school. So in this sense, student, do not have the difficulty in finding and exploring ideas, because they have real information, they have available resources. They also develop their critical thinking skills through these dialogues. So not only students later can develop descriptive text, but also students apply different ways of generating ideas through discussion, through observation, through interviews. So these are the benefit of service learning for the students. And also, service learning can bring benefit to the community, because we have collaboration with between schools, communities, universities for better capacity building of the teachers. The community also have more networks for more resources for the organization. As I have mentioned earlier, the school may not may find difficulty in developing texts relevant for their need. Then our students come to, while learning, producing something relevant to the learning outcome and also relevant to the needs of the community. In the area of English for young learners, our students develop materials, develop media, which are relevant to the need of the community, while at the same time, they are also applying the skill and knowledge expected in the course. Yeah. The third one is that the community can think inclusively as they take role in the development of future generation. So with this collaboration between students, university, and the community, we have the bonding that, oh yes, these students are the future generation. And when I'm working with a student, I'm playing role in the development, in preparing this future generation that will take part in the development in the future. So those are some of the benefits from the three aspects, from the university, from the student, and also from the community, as far as service learning being part of teaching and learning and being part of the assessment. Yeah. These are the benefit for the university. It reinforces innovation. So because the needs of the community are very dynamic, So we need to keep on having the innovation in trying to accommodate the need, while at the same time, we also try to, develop the students' ability and skill. Service learning enrich the method and strategies of teaching and learning, as well as the assessment, of course, and provide various learning modes for the student. It's not only in class, it's not only doing, assignments, sit in examination, or project, but they have projects which are related to the need of the community. So university also have a community of learning. So it's not only students, but also the community outside of the university, and the university can have more collaboration with communities, stronger university community relationship, and attract more interest of the potential students. Yeah, because we have various methods of teaching, learning, and also assessment. So, and these are the steps in doing assessment through service learning. So we formulate learning objective by looking at the curriculum. Then we find community partners. We do need analysis, and then we do the service learning based on the expected learning outcome and need analysis. And then the student work on the report or product and the reflective essay. So these are the steps. One thing that we need to remember is that when we go to the community to provide services, there is also elements of learning. So if the need of the community cannot be accommodated, or maybe not that fully relevant to the learning objective, of course, we will not do that. So there needs to be one-to-one match between the learning objective and the need of the community for service learning to work as a way of teaching and learning as well as assessment. And this is the reflection of my students in English for Young Learner class who have done service learning. So they went to different madrasah. They work with the teacher in developing the materials and also the media for students in primary schools. So mainly they reflected on two big benefits. The first one is the pedagogical benefits. The second one is the personal traits benefit. So they reflected that they feel they become more creative in finding and designing teaching strategies because they learn from the real class. They learn from the students they are working with. And then they also have better ability to select and develop teaching media. They have better understanding and skill in the teaching preparation, and they have better ability in classroom management. Yeah, because they are not working with mock classes anymore. They are working with real classes. They are working with the teachers. Yeah, with their experiences, with their challenges. The second one, personal trait benefit, they reflected that they have better self-management, self-evaluation, they become more reflective, they become more hardworking, and they appreciate others because they find that in the field, sometimes they find challenges. So from that point, they then appreciate others better. Students also reflect that they have better ability to deal with other people and better networking, better ability in problem solving, in communication, in decision making, and also positive feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction because they feel that they play active role in developing the school as learning community. And here are the reflection of the community that we have been working with. So they feel that they have better collaboration. They feel that they are more updated with the new strategies. So they learn also from the students. They have better completion of the target. So if the teacher, for example, actually want to develop a particular media, but because of the teaching tasks that they don't have the time to develop the media, meaning that they have the need in that. My student come and work together with them. Therefore, the target of having the relevant media can be achieved. They also have better capacity building through mentoring, coaching, and collaboration. Uh, and they reflect that because they find what is it, the benefit from this service learning as part of teaching and learning and also assessment. They reflected that they need more time and more students coming to them to help them with their issues. Yeah. And students also feel that maybe if they have longer time to do the surface learning, then they can learn better. And in that sense, I can also assess my student much better. So through using surface learning as a form of authentic assessment, I can reflect that the assessment does not only function as assessment of learning, but also assessment for learning and assessment as learning. Yeah, I through service learning, we can not only assess the learning outcomes that students have achieved, but through the process, the student also learning on their goals, on their strategies. They also learning on their way of learning. So what can they can do better? How can they achieve better? So through authentic assessment, assessment can function assessment of learning, assessment for learning, as well as assessment as learning. So, what are the possible application in other contexts? Actually, service learning as a form of assessment can be applied in any courses, but of course with some condition. So the condition is that students needs to already have the basic knowledge and skill before they come to the community. And as I have mentioned earlier, the needs of the community must be relevant to the learning objectives of our course. If it's not relevant, so we will not do that. There needs to be one-to-one relationship between the learning objective and the need of the community to enable that the teaching and learning process as well as and the assessment are relevant to what is it the learning objective set at the beginning of the course. So June, that's all that I can share related to authenticating assessment through service learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Siti Asmia from Indonesia, for a very comprehensive and informative discussion about your assessment practices. I, as I have observed that you are really applying this assessment technique that you have discussed us. And for sure, our participants are able to grasp the learning that you have imparted to us. And of course, thank you so much, Dr. Siti Asmia, for giving your time to be with us tonight. Okay. So for our participants, you can take down your questions and put it down to the comment section later during the question and answer portion. So Dr. Siti Asmia, please stay with us as later on we will have our question and answer part so that our participants can directly address their questions about the discussion about the topic that you have discussed to us tonight. Okay. So again, before we proceed to our next speaker, I would like to invite again our participants to support us by sharing, tagging, and mentioning your friends in the comment section. Later, we will give the e-certificate link in the comment box. And if ever that you will face any problem, we can have instructions later on how to claim your e-certificate. And moving on, let's now go to our next speaker. Our next speaker is also a lecturer and a secretary of English Teaching Learning Program at Tarbiyah Faculty and also he is Tarbiyah Faculty at State Islamic Institute of Madura, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker for tonight, we have Sir Ahmad Baidawi. Hello, sir.
Well, thank you for the time given to me.
Uh, Thank you
Do
also,
you
sir,
hear me?
for yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the chance given to me to present my topic on authentic assessment. And I would like to say good evening from Indonesia, good morning, good afternoon in the other part of the world. Well, for this time, I would like to share um, the result of my research on students' response on authentic assessment. Sorry, is it feasible?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Oh,
Not yet.
this one.
Um, you can click share. Do you see the icon at the
Hello.
middle?
You,
Hello, sir.
yes.
You can click the share button at the middle of the screen at the bottom.
This one.
Okay. Yeah. It,
Do,
can you know?
do, do you see my slide?
Yeah. Okay. Can you
This one, sir?
click the show, sir? Yeah, it's okay now. Okay.
Um, I'm so sorry. Maybe there is trouble with the internet connection. I cannot hear your voice clearly here. But do you
It's
hear
okay
me
now, sir.
clearly?
Yeah, yeah. It's now okay. Your presentation is now visible.
Okay. Well, this is the table of the content. First, introduction, and then the second, research method, finding, and conclusion. Let me start from the introduction. Uh, as we have known together that so far, when in education
Sir Ahmed, can
field,
you hear me? Sir Ahmed, can you hear me?
yes,
Sir,
do you
start
hear
from the
me?
first slide. Is it the
Pardon me?
first slide, sir?
Yes.
Introduction is the first
Do you,
slide, sir? Okay,
first
okay,
slide.
okay, sir.
This one.
Okay, yeah,
Hello.
okay, sir.
Yes. This is my first slide. Hello.
Hello, sir. You can now start.
Okay. Thank you for the time. And then what I want to present here, the result of my research on student response of on authentic assessment. Uh, I think it's important to know whether authentic assessment is good or not for our student to apply by the teacher or our lecturer in a university. Hello,
Hello, sir.
hello, sir.
You're audible, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay,
It's good. It's good.
well, and I divided my presentation into four: first introduction and the second research method, finding and conclusion. Well, as we have known so far, or as we have practiced so far, usually in education, after we teach our student to know or to get information whether our student understand or absorb of what we have taught, we need information to get the information whether the student understand or absorb or obtain the objective of learning. We must have the data, and the data, of course, we get from the assessment. uh, the usual assessment we do, or I myself do so far, is traditional assessment, like giving student multiple choice, and then true or false, uh, and asking their to explain the definition what we have of the topic what we have discussed. And I think this kind of assessment cannot comprehensively assess what students have learned, what students have obtained, or what students have uh, understood from any topic we discuss or we explain in the classroom. That's why we, as a teacher or lecturer in a university, we need the alternative assessment, or we call it the authentic assessment. Authentic assessment, as we have known that we assess not only the knowledge but also the skill, the attitude, and so on. Authentic assessment emphasizes the practical application of tasks in real-world setting. Means that when we apply authentic assessment, we what we want is our student can apply what they have learned in a real life. According to Muller, defines authentic assessment is a direct measure of students' acquired knowledge and skills through formal education to perform the authentic task. And then Peter said that authentic assessment provide multiple paths to demonstration of learning in comparison to traditional assessment, like answering multiple choice questions that lack variability owing to students' ability to demonstrate knowledge and skill the process. And then Sonny Brown says that authentic assessment is a form of assessment in which students are asked to perform real-world tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of essential knowledge and skill. And we can also state that authentic assessment is true test of intellectual achievement or ability because it requires students to demonstrate their deep understanding higher order thinking and complex problem solving through the performance of exemplary tasks. So, uh, in a simple definition for my own opinion, that authentic assessment is the assessment that gives student chance to practice the concept or the theory that the student have got in the classroom, give student chance to apply what they have learned in a real life. In this point, or in this case, I'm researching my student in the fifth semester, and I'm teaching research methodology. In practice, I ask my student to write thesis proposal. I do not uh, ask them what they know about the definition of, say, for example, uh, research focus or research problem. I directly ask them to write the research focus or research problem, to give them chance to practice the theory or the definition after I explain what is research problem. And next, here I quote from Wiggins the differences between traditional standard testing and authentic assessment. Authentic assessment requires students to perform of what they have understood rather than to memorize. But in the fact, when we want to know whether the student have understood, usually after explaining the course or the lesson, we ask the student, not we um, ask them to practice what we have explained. And the second, authentic assessment present the student with full array of tasks rather than writing on line answers. Then it is a process oriented rather than guessing and selecting the correct answers. Means that in authentic assessment, the student must do the process. Like I told just now that when in my class research methodology, uh, I asked them not to restate what I have explained, but I asked them to do or to make uh, the proposal, not ask them uh, to explain what is the proposal. I asked them to make proposal as the application of the theory I explained in research methodology class. Next, it proves reliability and validity by devising criteria variety situation and purpose of assessment rather than trying to establish an objective framework. Then comprises of ill structured tasks from which students are helped rehearse for complex tasks as were in the real life rather than drilling or super practicing in artificial situation. This is the comparison between traditional standard or and authentic assessment based on the wiki. And this is also the difference with standardized testing and authentic assessment. I quoted from Armstrong. Okay, this is the example of authentic assessment in language learning. I quoted from Omley and Feldes-Pierce. First, oral interview in the form of learner by the teacher. So, if you want to know whether the student have skill on speaking, for example, we directly interview the student, and we know that the student can perform speaking skill or story or text retelling, writing samples, project and exhibition, experiment and demonstration, constructive response item, teacher observation, and portfolio. And the research method, this is a kind of descriptive qualitative research. And to get the data of students' response, I send them online questionnaire to know their response on authentic assessment I applied in my class. And the subject of the research, fifth semester of English Teaching Learning Program, Faculty of Tarbiyah, State Islamic Institute of Madura or IAIN Madura. And the research finding I presented in the form of percentage of student response. Here is the finding. Um, First question, I asked them whether they agree or not with authentic assessment after I apply authentic assessment. From 55 students or responses, 90.2% agree with authentic assessment. And the second, I asked them whether they enjoy the authentic assessment. 96.4% say yes. And then third question, do you think authentic assessment is meaningful? Also, the response yes, 94.6%. And the fourth question, can authentic assessment help you practice or apply what you have learned? Also, 98.2% say yes. And next, can authentic assessment help you ready to compete in real life? 87.3% say yes. And then Next, is authentic assessment more important and useful than traditional assessment? 87.3 also say yes. And the last, does authentic assessment give you chance to explore your skill? 96.4% say yes. It meant that uh, student actually preferable or prefer to authentic assessment than traditional assessment. They feel that what they have learned can be applied. They feel that they do not only deal with paper and pencil to write the answer yes or not, or to uh, choose A, B, C, or C the correct answer. The conclusion, the authentic assessment is the assessment which must be applied to give students chance to practice what they have learned and have them prepare themselves to compete in a real life to answer the challenges faced later. Besides, it is more enjoyable for them because they deal with the real activity to show their competence, not deal with the completing the written questions, drill, and others. So uh, it is recommended for us as an educator, whether as a teacher or a lecturer, to emphasize the assessment on authentic assessment, not traditional assessment, because it's more meaningful and useful for the students when the assessment, the authentic assessment is applied in our institution. Authentic assessment give the student chance to practice uh, what they have learned in a real life. I'm besides teaching um, research methodology, I also teach writing. In teaching writing, to practice authentic assessment, of course, I ask my student to do the project like mm, writing the narrative essay, to write the narrative or descriptive essay, or the descriptive paragraph, rather than I ask them the definition of the paragraph, the part of the paragraph. I ask them to analyze the structure of the paragraph, and then after that I ask them to practice writing the paragraph. I think that's all what I can share. I'm not so sorry, it's my first time having this chance to present my presentation. If there is a question later, maybe we can share. Thank you for the chance given to me.
Okay,
Hello.
so once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have Sir Ahmad Baidawi from Indonesia. Sir, thank you so much for
Yeah, well,
sharing with us your study about authentic assessment. And based on the results, students really like the authentic assessments that you have employed to them. Moreover,
Yes.
thank you also for sparing your time with us tonight.
Yes. You're welcome.
Okay, so again, dear participants, please reserve your questions or queries later during the question and answer part. And I would like to share the notes that I have taken on the discussion of Dr. City and Sir Ahmad. Okay, so learning through questions, and that is one of uh, the phrase that we have to remember. Okay, Dr. City had made to assess her own assessment practices, then came out with the results. Then she was able to identify what are the things that needs to be improved. And by this, we can say that assessment is a big help to address the immediate needs of our learners. Another one, we have to let our students feel ownership of their own learning through the assessment techniques. Okay. Another one is that authentic assessment does not only assess knowledge but also attitude and the skill. Next is authentic assessment promotes higher order thinking and complex problem solving skills. Okay, so at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to our quiz competition. Okay, so we are encouraging everyone to participate and have a chance to have a certificate for winning in the quiz. The link for the quiz is posted on the comment section, and you may use the code to join. The code is IGP quiz. Okay, so far we have 53 participants in our quiz application. Okay, here are some of the names who entered the www.slido.com. Okay, again, we are inviting all participants to join and win an e-certificate with ISO logo. So top 10 will be awarded with quiz completion certificates. We are still waiting for the other participants to join in our quiz. Again, you can enter the quiz by going to the website www.slido.com, and then you can enter the code all caps IGP quiz, or you can click the link in the comment box. Okay, so we are still waiting for our quiz to start. Okay, so we have now 103 participants. For number one question, a parent's level of education strongly influences their child's reading level, health, and general level of education, the reading level, or general level of education. Okay. Okay, so 71% of our participants get the correct answer. It's reading level, health, and general level of education. Next question. Okay, so we have on the number one spot. Next question, all students have access to the general education curriculum. True or false? Okay, so we have 93% of the participants get the correct answer. Let's now proceed to the next. Percent of our participants get the correct answer for question number 3. On the leaderboard, we have on the number 1 spot. Okay, next question. In education, only men should have access to certain aspects of education. Only women should have access to certain aspects of education. Men and women should have equal learning opportunities. Let's see. We'll get the correct answer. Okay, 100% of participants got the correct answer. Let's see who's on the number 1 spot. Okay, we have Giancarlo A. Belonza. Next is the future education. No more school, a change of teaching, working only with computers. What do you think? Okay, the correct answer is working with computers, and we have number one on this number 1 spot. Next, quality education. Quality education is the foundation of improving lives. Quality education gives access to better jobs and more money. Quality education leads to decent work and economic growth. Okay, so we have 60% of the participants get the correct answer. And on the number 1 spot, we have Elias A. Austria. Children were given access to education. True or false? Let's check. Okay, only 1% got the correct answer. Next, girls' education concerns everyone. True or false? Some questions are tricky. Let's check. 66 versus 34, and 66% of our participants get the correct answer. On the number 1 spot, we still have Elias. Next, are skills different than education? Yes or no? Okay, 64 versus 36, And 64% of our participants get the correct answer. Okay, can we help with girls' education? Yes, by raising awareness. No, it doesn't concern us. Okay, 99% versus 1%. And 99% of the participants got the correct answer. Okay, let's see who among the participants got on the top 10. Okay. Okay, so on the list, we have on the number one spot, Elias A. Austria got 9 out of 10. Number two, Michelle T. De La Cruz. Number three, Naong Lat Tan. Number four, Romel Hernandez. Number five, May Dagpin Olavides. Number six, Eglantina Shehu. Number seven, Melinda C. Hispano. Number eight, Jamalin V. Rivera. Number nine, Feruz Akbarov. Number 10, on the number 10, we have Alex Javier Alvarez, who also got 8 out of 10 points. Okay, so congratulations to our quiz competition winners. And for the non-winners, just keep joining, just keep participating on our next webinar. There's a lot of webinars coming, so just keep joining the quiz. Maybe next time you will also be our winner. Okay, so let us now come to the question and answer part of our webinar. So if you have any questions or queries in okay. Hello once again, Dr. Siti and Sir Ahmad.
Yeah.
Yes, Pak Jun.
Yes.
We are waiting for our participants to have their questions to be addressed to you. To our dear participants, please state the name of our speaker whom you are going to address your questions. We have Dr. Siti and we have Sir Ahmad. They are both from Indonesia. Okay, so we have the first question coming from Manolita Ramos Oligo for Miss City or to Dr. City. What does community engaged teaching look like in practice?
Fine. Thank you, uh, Ibu Manolita Ramas Oliko, for the question. So, what does community engaged teaching look like in practice? So, I probably reflect on what we have done as far as assessment through service learning is concerned. So, for example, this teaching process is the form of assessment in particularly in the English for Young Learners course in my context. So when students were assessed on their ability to apply teaching strategies, then they find community partners uh, which need help, yeah, which are in need of more teachers, English teachers for primary schools. Therefore, these students are working with the teachers and applying the strategies in a real classroom. So my student become the co-teachers with the teacher in the school. So I regard this as community engaged teaching. Uh, our students also come to what is it? Communities, not the formal one. So learning community, it can be what is it? Group of people who have concern with the education of street children, for example. So our students come to this community and work with them, applying the teaching strategies that they have learned in class in this community. So that is the form of what is it? Community engaged teaching, in which the students are applying the knowledge and skill they have in class, while at the same time giving services, and their reflection and the project that they are working with, become the form of assessment that we have for this particular course. So that is what I can share, Ibu Manolita. Thank you, Pak Jun.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. City, for answering that. Okay, let's have the next question. To Dr. City as Mia, is service learning or ESL integrated to education system from early ages? How about the wishes that invest and whose learning outcome may not be relevant to the community needs or stakeholders' demands?
Fine. Thank you, Bapak Ferus Akbarov, for the question. So there are two questions here. Is service learning integrated to education system for early ages, from kindergarten or primary schools? What I have shared and reflected in the webinar
Meja, beban
today
tangga.
is the practice of service learning at the university level, but it's very possible also to do the service learning. I believe that it's possible to do the service learning from early ages. For example, in the kindergarten, for example, education in kindergarten is in the process of developing attitude and behavior and character. For example, one of the learning objective is to enable students to have the caring to the community. So in that sense, I think the teacher in a way can facilitate students to work with the community in a particular area in which giving donation or things like that. So of course we need to have a kind of modification on the levels of the service learning supplied on different levels of education. And of course, in the lower level of education, we need to have the teacher working with them, coming to the community, different from the one that I apply in the university level, in which students may come to the community by themselves. So that's for the first question. For the second question, how about the personal wishes and interests of the students whose learning outcomes may not be relevant to the community needs or stakeholders' demands? Well, the idea of service learning is not just about service. It's about learning. So it's a combination of service and learning. One of the condition is that the needs of the stakeholder needs to be relevant with the learning outcome. If it's not relevant, then that is not service learning. That is the other type of community engaged program, yeah, but not service learning. So again, the idea of service learning is that There is service, there is also learning. And the part of the learning is that it needs to be relevant with the learning outcomes, with the expected learning outcome. If not, then we do not do that in the framework of service learning. Thank you, Pak Jun.
Okay.
So that's the answer.
Okay. Thank you also, Sir Firoz Akbarov, for that question. And of course, with a comprehensive answer from Dr. Siti Asmia. Okay. So let's have another question. To the second speaker, Dr. Ahmad, what is the reliability and validity of using authentic assessment, especially in online learning?
Okay, thank you for the question. Uh, because my research is qualitative, reliability and validity based on the source. That's why I do not limit only 10 or 20 subject or respondent. I send to all classes the and there are 55 students who give the response. I think the validity of the data is enough.
Okay. Okay, so that question came from Rose Bella Malo. Thank you so much for that question. Okay, let's have another question. We're still waiting for the other question from the participants, or else, if there is no question, then maybe they are already satisfied with the discussion, or maybe more questions means more interest of learning, right, Ma'am? The Dr. City, you have mentioned a while ago that
Okay.
we have to learn through questions, and
Yeah,
that
we
is
learn
also
through
one.
questions. Mm,
Yes, ma'am. That is also one of my principles as a teacher and as an educator also.
yeah. We need to keep asking questions in order that we can learn better, because through question we are processing the knowledge and information.
Yes, I agree with you, Dr. City. Okay, so I think that was the last question from our participants. Okay, so once again, to our dear speakers, thank you so much for giving your valuable time and for sharing with us your knowledge and your expertise. And for sure, our participants all around the globe have gained learnings from your discussion tonight. So thank you so much. And
Thank you for
You're
having
welcome.
me.
maybe in the future, we can have another session in IGP.
Yeah, thank you for having me, IGP. Thank you, Pak Chun, and all of the participants.
Okay, so here are some of the important announcements. Okay, so today's certification process without an account on our website, you can visit, but you can't do anything functionally. So it is important that you have to create your account. Okay, for you also to become updated on the webinars and other activities that IGP wants to offer. You can join our all live programs from Facebook page, Facebook group, YouTube channel, and website. If anyone missed any program due to some unavoidable issues, still you can attend previous webinars with verified certificates. So all the webinars that we have is posted on our website, www.eduigp.com. Okay, so here are the steps in downloading your certificate. For the step one, you have to browse our website, www.eduigp.com, and look for the webinar, today's program named Authentic Assessment and Teaching and Learning Part 4, dated October 10. Step 2, certification link, now available in the comment box and pinned comment. Certification link will be available always in this program post on the Facebook page, Facebook group, YouTube description. So all you have to do is to click the link that is posted there. And here are the certification process. You can claim your certificate in two ways. Number one is the direct link from comment box, pinned comment, or post description. Or if you are not able to click this link, please directly browse www.eduigp.com for all information together. Find today's program, then the process are the same. And always remember that it is better to have an account so that you can be able to avail the services that IGP wants to offer to all of us. For the step 3, you browse www.eduigp.com, or you can just click the link given so that you will be redirected in this page of our website. As what you are seeing on the screen, you can click enroll now, and then you can watch the YouTube link. If you are new, create your account. If you have an account, then log in directly. After that, find the seminar title and get enrolled, as what you are seeing on the screen. So I encourage everyone to have an account, because without an account on our website, you can still visit, but you can't do anything functionally. Okay, the most awaited part is the code for today's webinar. Today's code is all caps IGP 4477. And of course, without this code, no one is eligible for any certificate. You cannot be able to download your certificate without this code. So you can take the screenshot, or you can take it down in a piece of paper so that you can claim your certificates anytime you want. You just visit our website and then look for that webinar name dated October 10, Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning, and you just use the code all caps IGP 4477. And of course, with this code, you're going to use this code to enter in to get your certificate. So again, without this code, all caps IGP 4477, you cannot be able to download the e-certificate. And the last part, step 6 and step 7, of course, you may now download your certificate. Okay, so here are some of our upcoming webinars. On October 11, 2021, we have digital classroom engagement tools with the Ed Puzzle with our speaker from the Philippines. And this will be conducted in the evening session. On October 12, 2021, we have digital classroom engagement tools with Kotobi, another speaker from the Philippines also, and this will be conducted in the evening session. Okay, on October 13, evening session, we still have digital classroom engagement tools with Google Sites, and we have a speaker from the Philippines. Okay, on October 14, 2021, we have digital classroom engagement tools with Wakelet and to be discussed by our speaker from the Philippines. On October 15, 2021, digital classroom engagement tools overview to be discussed by our three speakers from the Philippines. So these webinars are webinar series which composed of 5 parts. On October 16, 2021, evening session, Artificial Intelligence in Education, to be discussed by Sir Sajimon Thekl Joseph from Oman. On October 17, 2021, morning session, Innovation Strategies in the New Normal, to be discussed by two speakers coming from the Philippines. On October 17, 2021, evening session, Becoming by Overcoming. We have three speakers from United States. On October 18, 2021, Personality Traits and Technology Acceptance, evening session with our speakers from Pakistan. On October 19, 2021, evening session, we have Subconscious Mind and Success. We have a speaker from the Philippines and one from India. On October 20, 2021, evening session, Teaching English as a Foreign Language and Assessment, Part 3. And we have speakers from Indonesia. On October 21, 2021, evening session, Developing Your Vision and Goals. And we have speakers from Pakistan, South Africa, and Bangladesh. On October 23, 2021, Inspiration and Motivation to Learn New Skills. And we have speakers from Croatia and Russia. On October 24, 2021, morning session, we have 21st Century Teaching and Learning Demystified, and we have speakers from Indonesia. On October 24, 2021, evening session, Teaching English as a Foreign Language and Assessment, Part 4. And we have again speakers from Indonesia. On October 25, 2021, evening session, The Process to be a TVET Trainer. And we have a speaker from the Philippines. Okay, again, don't forget to take down the code for today's webinar, Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning, Part 4. We have all caps IGP 4477. You can now take the screenshot or take it down so that you can download it. You can download your certificates anytime you want. Okay, so that is all about in tonight's session. But before we end, let us have the short reflection. Do not let this pandemic hinder your success to grow. Never allow it to stop you from achieving your dreams in life. Instead, let us look at the positive side and think of how we can be able to adjust and adapt with the changes brought by this pandemic. Remember that it is through pandemic that we were not able to interact physically, but it is also through this pandemic that we were able to learn how to utilize different learning platforms to connect and communicate with great people in the whole world. And of course, that is through IGP by having webinars like this. And take note, it is always free. There are many things to be thankful for. And thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, IGP. We hope to see you all again in the upcoming webinars. Stay happy and stay safe. Once again, from Aklan, Philippines, I am your host, Mr. Rianjun P. Calling, signing off.